Hey guys, a very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining today's session. I welcome you all to the fourth episode of the PAM Masterclass training series. For the benefit of those who do not know what this is, the PAM Masterclass training series is our exclusive product training where we help our customers understand all our PAM solutions in depth and how you can use them to address your everyday PAM use cases and challenges. I'm Sri Lekha, product consultant at ManageEngine and the host of this session. I'm joined by Shakti, who is the presenter of this session, and he's our in house PAM expert. Now, before we begin, I'd like to take you all through some quick housekeeping announcements. All the attendees here today will be muted by default. We'd like to keep this session as interactive as possible, so there's a live Q&A that will happen towards the end of today's webinar. So if you have any questions during the session or towards the end of today's session, please leave all your questions on the question and answer panel on your left, or you can also put them on the group chat so that we can take it up during the Q&A. The session collateral, including the recording and the session presentation deck, will also be sent to you in a couple of days. So please allow us a couple of days to process them. If you have any feedback for us, or if you need any technical assistance with the topic of the day or with respect to the product themselves, please always send us an email to the email ID that you see on screen. Now, moving on, this is the masterclass agenda. Like I said, this is our exclusive product training series where we cover one core PAM module in each of the episodes. The masterclass sessions will happen on the second Thursday of every month. So far we have covered privileged account governance, privileged elevation and delegation management, remote password management. And in today's session, we'll be taking a look at privileged session management and how you can use ManageEngine's privileged access management solutions to launch one-click secure remote access to your target machines. So with this, I hand the control over to Shakti, who will be the presenter of this session. So please remember that there is a Q&A that will happen towards the end. So if you have any questions, please feel free to post them on the chat or on the Q&A panel. Over to you, Shakti.
Hi all, I'm Shakti, a product expert from ManageEngine PAM 360 team. So I'll be the trainer for this session. In today's masterclass, we are going to look at what are the security risks associated with the privilege sessions, the benefits of using an effective privilege session management tool, and how best does ManageEngine help. Privileged accounts and the credentials that secure them are tapped into organizations' most critical systems because they have the highest permission levels. If an attacker were to gain access to just one mismanaged privileged account, they could easily escalate their access to the most sensitive systems inside the network. Such malicious users enjoy the benefit of doubt since they launch sessions using legitimate privileged accounts by attackers impersonating privileged users. So one of the biggest challenges organizations face today is a failure to understand their third-party relationships and the risks associated with them. According to a 2020 Ponemon Institute report, 53% of organizations have experienced at least one data breach caused by third party in the last 2 years. Attackers also use third-party remote access points to launch attacks, right? With an increasing reliance on remote vendors and the threat landscape constantly changing, it's difficult to identify the third-party threats and vulnerabilities without proper monitoring tools in place. Let's take a quick look at few attacks and data breaches which took place in the recent times. A hacker tried to poison a water treatment plant that served parts of the San Francisco Bay Area. It didn't seem hard. The hacker had the username and password for a former employee's TeamViewer account that let them to remotely control their computers. After logging in, the hacker deleted the programs of the water plant used to treat drinking water. The hack wasn't discovered until the following day, and the facility changed its password and reinstalled the programs. The Bay Area attack was followed by a similar one in Florida a few weeks later. Here too, the hacker gained access to a remote account and raised the levels of lye in the drinking water to poisonous levels. An employee quickly caught the computer's mouse moving on its own and undid the hacker's changes. But we cannot always have someone monitor all the sessions, right? Also, in one other case, a cyber criminal gained access to TransUnion South African server using a client's credential and did a data breach. The password for the server was just password. VPNs have been in existence for quite a while now. They are indeed used for establishing secure connections to our enterprise networks. So, what's the problem now? The more secure VPNs are, they are difficult to implement and an expensive affair. They are neither flexible nor easy to manage. Organizations with many remote workers may find VPN management expensive, particularly if they are using a good provider. The better a VPN is, the more costly you can expect it to be. VPNs can be useful tools, but they can also slow down a company's productivity during the implementation process. As we previously noted in these data breaches, VPNs trust whoever gains access to the private network, meaning that an attacker will have full access to an internet session once they have penetrated it. To address these risks, enterprise should consider additional security features when considering a VPN product. These include must-have security features like support for strong two-factor authentication, strong encryption algorithms, support live monitoring of sessions, terminating sessions during suspicious activities, logging and auditing support, and so on. So this is where VPNs can get expensive. Today's complex IT environments need a strong mechanism in place to manage and govern access to a growing inventory of remote servers, computers, and other IT assets. However, relying on multiple legacy remote access tools is inefficient and presents huge security risks. This calls for a simple, secure remote access solution that streamlines privileged access to security systems, critical systems, irrespective of their disparate network topologies. Now let's take a look at the benefits of using a privileged session management tool. A privileged session manager allows IT and security heads to have a central point of control to manage access to critical resources from anywhere across the globe, have granular controls on access pathways, and define how other privileged remote users connect to critical systems. In addition, privileged session management tools also provide simple workflows for easy provisioning and deprovisioning of privileged access while creating complete accountability for privileged users. These tools allow temporary, role based access for third parties like contractors, vendors, and outsourced employees to access specific enterprise systems or applications without the need of privileged account credentials. One other advantage is that secure critical systems by eliminating direct access to them. It serves as a proxy gateway server to tunnel privileged connections from the user device to the target system. This prevents unexpected access from unauthorized systems, limits all access pathways to corporate systems to this tool, and allows for more secure communications without the need for providing confidential passwords. With compliance to regulatory standards becoming a must have for all enterprises, a privileged session management tool helps organizations meet industry compliance standards like SOX, HIPAA, ISO, PCI DSS, and so on. Including privileged session management as part of a comprehensive cybersecurity strategy enables organizations to record all activities related to critical IT infrastructure and privileged accesses, helping them effortlessly adhere to audit and compliance requirements. So, how does ManageEngine help? Privileged session management can be achieved through ManageEngine's PAM 360, Password Manager Pro, and Access Manager Plus products. For demonstration purpose today, we are going to look at PAM 360 installation. So PAM 360 customers do not need to configure RDP SSH ports for initiating connections from their machines. You can simply launch one-click and VPN-less connections directly from the console via HTML5 supported browser, where sessions are tunneled by the PAM 360 application server itself. So any sessions launched from PAM 360 will be completely recorded, and an administrator or an auditor can view these recordings at any point of time. The admin users can also join these sessions live without the user's knowledge and can even terminate sessions. During SSH sessions, admins can also shadow these sessions and collaborate with the users. We have a chat functionality during this SSH session wherein the admins can actually assist the end users. Sessions can also be securely launched to Windows machines, any Linux-based devices, web apps, and databases, etc. Now let's see how to launch sessions from PAM 360. So I'm going to log in as an administrator now. So in order to launch any remote session, we need to add those devices as resources inside PAM 360. As you're all already using PAM 360 or Password Manager for products, I believe that like you will all know how to add resources inside the tool. So as you can see, I have like various devices added right now as resources. So remote sessions can either be launched from the All My Passwords resources page by just clicking on the Open Connection button right next to those particular user accounts, or else I can also launch remote sessions by navigating to the connections page and then by highlighting the particular resource and then clicking on the Open Connection button right next to it. For Windows resources, we are allowed to launch RDP sessions either using the local accounts of those devices, or else we can also make use of any allowed domain account to launch a privileged session. To better help, let me log in as an end user and operator user so that it will be helpful in understanding how PAM 360 can actually help us. So this particular password user has few resources shared to them. Okay, and let's try to launch a remote session for a Windows machine. The user, when he logs in, he will have access to all the resources shared to him and as well as the user accounts shared to him. By default, the passwords for these end users would be visible. Making use of a particular general setting, we'll be able to disable the view of passwords in clear text to the end users. So we will see how it can be done. Before that, let me try to launch a remote session. So just by a single click, a remote session will be launched to the target device. So the user does not know what the credentials are, and the sessions will be launched. And whatever the user is going to do on this particular session is going to be completely recorded. The users will also be able to perform file transfer from the client machine to the target device using this file transfer option. So closing this browser will automatically end this remote session, and an administrator will be able to view this recording live. So let me log in as an administrator now so that we can access the session recording. So an administrator user or a password auditor can navigate to the audit page and look for recorded connections, and they will see all recordings here. And by clicking on the play button, they'll be able to see what the user has performed on this particular session. So we just try to open a folder and as well as like access a particular file, and the same can be seen in this particular session now. So similarly, if a user launches a remote session, the administrators can actually join this session without the user's knowledge and see what the user is actually doing. They can like shadow the session. So let me log in inside the PAM 360 as the end user right now. I'm going to launch a Windows session right now. Take an RDP session to a Windows machine. Okay, and if I navigate to the administrator control, navigate to the active privilege sessions, and I will be able to join this session without the end user's knowledge. So I can see whatever the user is performing in this particular session. If needed, I can also very well terminate this session, which will kick off the user from this session. So you can see the session has been terminated successfully. So like RDP sessions, we can also launch SSH sessions, telnet sessions, or sessions to any Linux-based devices or databases. So let's take a look at how to launch remote sessions to, how we can launch SSH sessions or telnet sessions from PAM 360 server. So we have a Linux machine already added here with the password shared to this user. So without even knowing what the password is, the user can directly click on the open connection button and launch an SSH, telnet, or a legacy SSH session. So by just clicking on SSH, I can see that a secure session has been launched to the target device. And so, using this chat button, the administrator who is going to shadow the session can very well chat with this particular user and collaborate with him. And if needed, the user can also perform file transfer using the file transfer button. We also have an SQL database server added here, using which the users can launch SQL connections securely. So this will connect to the SQL database and show us a list of all the database available here. The user needs to choose the right database, and then they can connect and execute the required queries. Likewise, if you have any web-based accounts like social media accounts, you can very well add them inside Password Manager Pro to launch the web accounts. So just clicking on the Open Connection button, it will say Open URL in browser. The same will take you to the social media web page. And for this, we need to install a browser plugin. So if you navigate to the user icon on the top right, we will have an option to install the browser extension. Installing this browser extension will allow us to launch a session to the web apps. So let me go back to the administrator account and then show you the browser extension installed already. So I just navigate to connections here and go to web app connections, click on connects. It will take me to this particular page. I can just click on one moment. Let me log in to my browser plugin. Okay, so let's come back to this later. Sorry about it. So let me show you how we can actually mask passwords to the end users. So by default, when a resource is shared to an end user and the users log in, they'll be able to see these passwords in clear text. So what administrators can actually do here is we can navigate to the admin page and go to settings, and under general settings, we can very well go ahead and then disable the option to view the passwords in clear text. So allow plain text view of passwords if auto logon is configured. So this will be enabled by default. We can just disable this and save this. Once this is done, the passwords will be masked to the end users. And in case if you wish to share these passwords in clear text to the end users, and if you want the passwords to be automatically rotated after the password has been made use of, or else if a session has been completed, if you want the passwords to be automatically rotated, we have an access control feature in PAM 360 which can be configured so that after the time when the session has been executed, the tool will automatically rotate the password for us. So for this, we can go to the resource actions button and go to configure access control and miscellaneous settings. And you can enable this option, reset password key after exclusive use. So once this is set and saved, if a user launches a session and if a time has been set like 30 minutes or 1 hour, by the end of the session, the tool will automatically kick the user out of the session and automatically reset the password for us. So even if the user has the password, they cannot reuse the password at any point of time. So let me log in back as the end user. Okay. So now we have seen like how to launch these SSH sessions and telnet sessions, right? So in case if there is a Linux device behind a DMZ, or else like let's say it's there is a firewall in between the password PAM 360 server and the target machine, and we will not be able to connect to those devices directly. What we can do here is like we can configure a landing server setup, making use of wherein we can make a hop to that landing server from the PAM 360 server and then to the target device. So this landing server will act as a bridge to help us launch a connection, secure connection to that end machine. Now, when I launch a telnet session here, you can actually see that PAM 360 is first connecting to this PMP CentOS 6 machine, and then it's connecting to the PMP Cent 7 machine. So it's actually connecting to the PMP Cent 7 machine through PMP CentOS 6. To make this happen, we need to configure landing server. So let me show you how to do that. So I'm going to log in as an administrator right now. So in order to configure a landing server, we need to first add a Linux resource as a device inside PAM 360. So we can just navigate to add resource and then add a Linux machine, or else we can also make use of the discovery resource feature to run a discovery scan and add the Linux resource inside PAM 360 machine. So once that is done, we have to navigate to the admin page and we have to go to the landing server. Under connections, you will find landing servers. Click on the landing server option and add landing server. So in this page, you can find primary landing server and secondary landing server. So you can give a landing server page like a name and then choose the primary landing server, the account using which we need to connect to it. And in case if you need a second landing server, like a second hop that needs to be made to reach the target device, you can very well choose a second landing server as well and then save this. So once the landing server has been added like this, we can navigate to the resources page, choose that particular Linux server, and then we can edit it using the resource actions button, configure remote password reset, and under landing server, we can choose the landing server we just added. So once this landing server is configured, we can make use of this particular feature to launch remote sessions or else to reset passwords. Now, uh, we have seen how to launch remote sessions to target machines or launch SSH sessions, all those. Now let's also see how we can actually manage these recordings. So any session recording that has been recorded in PAM 360 will be securely stored inside PAM 360's folder. By default, it will be under the PAM 360 folder. So if required, we can very well point these recordings to be stored on an external device or else to an external path. So this can be very well done by navigating to the connections page and administrator, session configuration. So from this page, you can actually edit the path where the session recordings will be actually stored. And likewise, you can also decide for which type of connections these sessions has to be recorded. So if you want to record for RDP sessions, SSH or Telnet, we can enable or disable these options from right here and save this. And we can also choose to purge the old recording sessions from purge recording sessions page. PAM 360 also provides us with a secure connection called remote app, wherein we need not allow users to launch a session to a particular machine and have complete access to that particular machine. Instead, what can be done here is that if you have remote app pre-configured on a Windows server, we can very well add that Windows server inside PAM 360, discover that particular PAM server, and then choose the remote apps that needs to be published and we can very well share this remote app to the target user. So for this, we can navigate to the admin page, go to remote app under connections, and click on the discover button. From here, we can very well go ahead and choose the device for which the remote has been configured. We can choose a privileged account and click on the fetch button, which will go ahead and populate all the remote apps published on this particular server. So we can choose the required ones and then click on add and associate. So once this is done, a remote app server is ready for use in PAM 360. Now, in order to make use of these remote apps, we need to create a connection user within PAM 360 machine. So in PAM 360, you have like different user roles, okay, like administrators, password users. Likewise, we also have a privilege connection user. So these connection users can be added by navigating to the users page here. So for example, let me pick any user here. And as you can see, we have like given connection user privilege here. So if you want to like change the user role, you can very well edit the user and then change the role of this particular user here. So we need to provide connection user permissions to that particular user. So once that is done and the resources shared to that user, the connection user will be able to launch remote apps. So let me log out right here and then log back in as that particular connection user. So this Windows DOM 001 was the same machine which was shared to a different password user. When he was launching the remote session, he was able to launch the session and access the complete device. Okay, whereas for this particular connection user, we have shared only the remote app. So if we click on the open connection button, he will only have access to those apps which are shared to him. So I can just like click on Paint or Calculator or a WordPad, and only that particular application would be opened in the remote machine. And whatever the user is going to perform in this particular machine will be completely recorded. So as you can see, a recording is taking place on the bottom right hand side. So these connection users or administrators will also be able to perform bidirectional file transfer. So you'll have something called secure file transfer. By clicking on this, they'll be taken to a page where they can choose two different devices added inside PAM 360. So it could be like cross operating systems as well. I can choose a Windows device here, and as well as I can choose a Linux machine here if needed. And then I can choose the file transfer. So let me show it to you as an administrator here, so that like I have like multiple resources added over there. Okay, let's just navigate to connections and secure file transfer. And I will choose a Windows machine here. And here, let me choose a Linux machine. And once you click on connect, it will show you all the file folders available on these devices. So we can choose a particular file and move it to the other device. So a secure file transfer can be performed for cross operating systems as well. Okay, so likewise from Linux, I can also very well transfer a file to the Windows machine. Okay, let me just quickly add a website account so that I can show you how we can actually launch a website account using PAM 360 using the browser plugin. Okay, so the browser plugin will automatically populate the username and password, and we'll be able to launch connections to any social media accounts or else any internal websites. So we have covered almost all session management features available in PAM 360. So with this, we'll be moving on to the next segment of our session, which is the live Q&A. So before that, we should just quickly recap like what we have actually seen on this particular session. So launching remote sessions via PAM 360. So we have launched RDP sessions, SSH, SQL, and web app. So similarly, we'll also be able to launch Telnet and VNC sessions, and we'll also be able to configure landing servers or jump servers for remote connections. And any sessions that has been launched through PAM 360 will be monitored, recorded, and we will also be able to play back any live sessions. And we'll also be able to perform bi-directional file transfer, making use of the SFTP feature available in PAM 360 and connecting to web applications via the PAM 360 console. So useful product literature is the help guides are very much available online. You can like access our help guide release notes by navigating to our ManageEngine PAM 360 website. And if you have any queries, you can always write to us at hellopam360 at manageengine.com. And we are ready to take any questions and answers right now. Over to you, Lekha.
Thanks, Shakti. Hello again, everyone. The floor is now open for question and answers. We have pretty much covered everything with respect to privilege session management. So if you have any doubts or if you have any questions, uh, we are now open to answer all your questions. We have another 5 minutes before we wrap up. So we are here to take all your questions. So, yes, Shakti, we have a question here. It
Mhm.
says, for session management to work, should we have a RDP port open on client machines?
Okay, so there is no need for the RDP ports to be open on client machines. So whoever the user is, the one who is going to launch the remote session, so there is no need for the RDP ports to be open on that particular machines. The reason being, when we launch a session from the PAM 360 server, these sessions will be triggered or launched from the PAM 360 server to the target device over secure HTML5 channels. So that will be over the browser. Okay, so there is no need for the RDP to be open in between the client machines and the target machines. Instead, we need the RDP to be open in between the PAM 360 server and the target device.
One more question, Shakti. So, how can
Mhm.
I ensure that my passwords are masked before I share any resource with a connection user?
Yes. So by default, passwords shared to the end user would be in clear text. Okay. So what we can do here is we can actually uh, configure a setting in PAM 360, which will block the end users from viewing these passwords in clear text. So let me just take you there. So let me log in as an administrator user and display it to you. So just log in as an admin user and then navigate to admin settings and then general settings. And under general settings, we have the option allow plain text view of passwords if auto logon is configured. So if this is enabled, the users will be able to see the passwords in clear text. Just by disabling this and saving this configuration, we'll be able to mask the passwords to the end users. So without even knowing what the passwords are, with a single click, the users can launch a remote session to any target device.
All right, we have a couple more minutes before we wrap up. So, if you have any questions, please quickly post them on the chat or the question answer panel. Yeah, all right. We've been getting a few more questions, but we are falling short of time. With this, we have reached the end of today's webinar. I hope this session was useful in helping you understand the nitty-gritties with respect to privilege session management, module in depth. So we hope to see you in our next episode of the PAM Masterclass, which is about leveraging ManageEngine PAM 360's contextual integration with other IT management applications and enterprise applications, including RPA tools, help desk solutions, DevOps platforms, and so on. We'll also take a look at how the privilege user behavior analytics engine of ManageEngine works, ManageEngine PAM 360 works in terms of analyzing user logs and making important decisions when it comes to suspicious activities, anomalous behaviors, and so on. As always, please feel free to reach us over an email if you have any doubts or if you need any technical assistance. I thank you all so much for taking the time to participate in this session today. Hoping to see you in our next masterclass session. Until then, thank you so much. I'm signing off. Thank you.